Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Isabel and this is my library. In today's video, I bring you all the things that I read in the month of April. Alright guys, so I hope you had a successful April reading month. For me, my April reading month was a pretty average month. I did read a little bit less than I wanted to, but I did fulfill my major must read for this month, so I guess that's a win. I'll go ahead and start today's video by sharing some stats with you. So this month I read a total of 9 books for a total of 1,961 pages. Of those, 3 were books of poetry, 2 were adult mysteries, 1 was a middle grade mystery, 1 was a paranormal erotic novella, 1 was a middle grade choose your own adventure book, and 1 was a thriller. So this month I didn't read any horror, which is my go-to genre, and thrillers I really only read 1, which is another genre that I do read very often. I feel like this month looks a little bit different than my usual months. There were quite a few things I was hoping to accomplish. April is National Poetry Month, so I'm very happy that I was able to read 3 collections of poetry in my very own celebration for poetry during the month of April. So that took some time, but I'm happy I was able to get it done. I still was able to read some middle grade leftover books from middle grade March, things I wanted to make sure that I kind of read this month for Old School April, because they were pretty nostalgic books that I had kind of put on my TBR for middle grade March in the hopes that they would kind of trickle on down to the month of April for Old School April. So I was able to get that done. And I did have a pretty busy month. So my number of pages and number of books was slightly lower than usual, but I'm pretty happy, I think, with how my month went. So I'll go ahead and start by telling you and showing you everything that I read this month. As usual, I'll go ahead and start off with my least favorite of the books and going all the way to my favorite book of this month. So we'll go ahead and start off with my least favorite book of this month, which was Five Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. So, unfortunately, this was my least favorite book of this month. I did give it 2 stars, and I believe I picked this up on premise alone. I really enjoy books that take place in a snowed in environment. I do like a small cast of characters that are all trapped together due to inclement weather, perhaps, and there's like a killer among them. That's something that usually fits all the boxes of the things that I love most in books. And this one, though, was a bit of a disappointment. So let me tell you a little bit about the premise. So in this, we are following a high school girl named Mira, and she, at the opening of the book, she's inside an airplane, and she's been sitting next to this girl that she's been talking to back and forth the whole time. And the weather has been awful. They have inclement weather, and there's a lot of turbulence, and the book opens up with heightened emotions and a lot happening, so that first part was very interesting. And once they land, she is ultimately trying to make her way back home for the holidays, and there's stuff happening with her mom, and so there's a sense of urgency for her to get back home. She really can't, because once they actually land and they get to the airport, they find that her connecting flight is not going to happen, and she's kind of stranded on the airport. And so basically, the girl, who's an older college student who was sitting next to her the entire time, manages to rent a car and invites her along for their journey home. And basically, the entire book takes place in the vehicle, like in the car, as they're trying to make their way back home. It is Amira, it is the girl sitting next to her the in the plane, and 3 other people. They're all in the car together. and we start to get to know them a little bit better, and so on and so forth. So all of that should have been the recipe for a book that I really, really enjoyed, but this was just not it. Some of the things I didn't like about it is that, not that we weren't sure what the threat was, but everything was a threat, if you know what I mean. And I understand a book of like this has to have unreliable narrators and make us question the identities of the people in the car, and has to have some red herrings, but it's to the point where everything was a potential threat, and you know the solution was not viable. It was something that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. We do have every other chapter, we have the interruption of the narrative with these letters. Apparently, they are these letters that are written to the main character, and they give us insight as to who might be the danger in this situation. And obviously I don't want to tell you too much, but it was just not great, and the resolution wasn't great. You did have to suspend disbelief to kind of figure this out. I feel like this book could have gone in so many other directions, and any of them would have been better than what we got. So ultimately it was disappointing for me. I kind of suspected it was YA, but it actually read too much YA for me as well, so I thought that was another thing I didn't really enjoy. But yeah, Five Total Strangers was just not for me. Next on my list comes Journey Under the Sea by R.A. Montgomery, and this is book number 2 in the Choose Your Own Adventure series. This is one of my original books from the 90s. I did buy it pre-owned, so it does say that it's an ex-library copy here, and I bought it pre-owned as a kid, and the book was already old by the time I got it. But Choose Your Own Adventure books are so special to me. I remember being a little girl and going to the library to check these out, and I just couldn't get enough of them. I have so many of them from my original books. I also have been throughout the years collecting them, and at this point I believe I'm missing maybe 15 or 20 out of the 180, 190, whatever that is total. So I have the majority of them, and they really do hold a special place in my heart. I have started rereading them. I've reread book 1 and now book 2. Sadly, this one is just a 3-star for me. Normally, these were not my favorite types, the adventure ones, and this one is all under the sea. I'm not a big fan of under the sea things, or um, submarines and all of that, but it was still very enjoyable. It has everything that I love about Choose Your Own Adventure books, which is you make a choice, and if things go sideways, you start all over again and you make a new choice. So those are always my favorite things about these books. And it's like you get to live like a million lives with them. And so I really, really enjoyed that part. It was just really like the topic wasn't my favorite, but it was still good. These always bring me back so many memories of my childhood, and I hope I can continue reading a couple here and there, and eventually get to the higher up numbers, because those are the ones I don't think I've read. These first were so common in the library, and they were just readily available everywhere, but it's not until we get to like the top, like the 100 some books, that those are the ones I really haven't read. So I do want to make my way toward reading the entire series. But yeah, Journey Under the Sea was fine, 3-star read for me this month. So next we have Crossing the Water by Sylvia Plath, and this is a collection of her poetry, which I had not read before. I have read her poetry before. I had not read this particular collection. And this came in at a 3-star for me. Although this does have some poems that I really love, like one of my favorite poems is in here of Sylvia Plath's, I feel the collection as a whole was just not my favorite. I feel like this collection was overly figurative in the sense that the writing was so abstract that some of the poems were difficult to make sense of, even for me, a person who has studied Sylvia Plath, who teaches Sylvia Plath. I had never read some of the ones in this collection before, and they were very obscure. And I feel like, as a whole, like I really didn't understand too much why they were pieced together. I know they are considered transitional poems, and this is a very thin collection of poems. Her other collections of poems are longer works, so this one really didn't have that many of them. Um, but I will share with you one of my favorites, and I did put my little stickers and do some annotating on here. Um, but I will share with you one of my favorite Sylvia Plath poems, which is titled Mirror, and it is in this collection. I am silver and exact. I have no preconceptions. Whatever I see, I swallow immediately, just as it is, unmisted by love or dislike. I am not cruel, only truthful. The eye of a little god, four-cornered. Most of the time I meditate on the opposite wall. It is pink with speckles. I have looked at it so long I think it is a part of my heart. But it flickers, faces and darkness separate us over and over. Now I am a lake. A woman bends over me, searching my reaches for what she really is. Then she turns to those liars, the candles or the moon. I see her back and reflect it faithfully. She rewards me with tears and an agitation of hands. I am important to her. She comes and goes. Each morning it is here. It is her face that replaces the darkness. In me she has drowned a young girl, and in me an old woman rises toward her day after day like a terrible fish. And that is Mirror by Sylvia Plath, one of my favorite poems. So if you've never read Sylvia Plath, she has some wonderful books of poetry. Her collection Ariel is really good. And yeah, I just feel like this wasn't her strongest, but it was still good. I'm still happy I read this collection, and she's just wonderful. So next we have Neighborhood Odes by Gary Soto, which is another collection of poems, in particular odes. Gary Soto is a Mexican American writer. I have read Gary Soto before. I've taught many of Gary Soto's works before as well, but I had never particularly read this entire collection, which is odes to his neighborhood growing up. And there's something so beautiful about making the ode, which is such a classic type of poem, which dates to hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and odes that are written about the most sophisticated and precious of things, glamorous of things, if you will. Um, I love that he has taken that concept of the ode and written odes to the simplest of things from his childhood and his growing up experience, and how he highlights how those things were important parts of his life. And so I just think there's something so beautiful about comparing John Keats' Ode to a Grecian Urn to, one of his odes of, for example, Ode to the Sprinkler in the backyards, or um, Ode to the Chicharrones, which are pork rinds. And I found that beautiful. That honestly is my favorite part of um, this entire concept or this project. I did rate this 3 stars. I kind of wished maybe it were longer, or I don't know. It left me wanting more, so I guess that's why I just gave it a 3 star. But they truly, there were quite a few wonderful ones. There was one here, Ode to the Pinata, and the role, as you see here, the role that the pinatas played in all the childhood memories of kids from his neighborhood. And yeah, I thought it was wonderful. It was a wonderful rendition and honoring of Hispanic culture and Hispanic upbringing, and using such a sophisticated art form as the ode to do that was really, really good. And yeah, that was Neighborhood Odes by Gary Soto. Next on my list is 13 Problems by Agatha Christie. And this is a collection of short stories which Miss Marple solves. My favorite part about this was the framing device for these stories. So there are a group of people gathered together and they decide, hey, let's start, sharing with each other our most puzzling mysteries that we've heard of, that we know the solutions to, and let's share those with everyone and see if you guys can solve them. And they're just trying to one up each other with their stories. And I really enjoyed that framing device. I also love how everyone glances over Miss Marple and doesn't think that she's a viable person to solve these crimes or these mysteries. And she proves to everyone that, yes, that even though she's very limited in her worldly experience, she still has what it takes to solve the majority of these mysteries. And so I thought it was great. But there were some stories that I feel were dated, some stories that I feel were not super relevant. Um, I feel some of those ideas I had heard of before or seen before, so I didn't feel they were completely original to Agatha Christie. Like I had seen her do that more. I also feel it didn't have enough of Miss Marple's thinking or her voice, which is usually my favorite part, to see her work and see her interacting with others and her dialogue with others, and trying to find her way into places she shouldn't be in. So I think that's what I didn't love about it, that each story was indeed told by different people, so it had different like voices. But it was still fine. I gave it 3 stars. It's still a good read. I have such high expectations for all of Agatha Christie's books, and I've read, I think, at this point in my reading career of making my way through the Agatha Christie collection, oeuvre, world, whatever you want to call it. I think I've read some of her best already. So it takes a lot for me to be impressed and give out those 5 stars, because I've read so many good ones. But it was still really good. And if you've never read Agatha Christie and you want to start with some short stories, or you want to meet Miss Marple, I think this is a great entry point to that. And what a fantastic cover this is, right? And I love the end papers for this are also beautiful. So yeah, so that was the 13 problems. Now we're moving to a 3.5 star. So we've seen 2 star, 3 stars. So this next one was a 3.5 star read for me. And this was Reverie, Reverie, Reverie by JD Midnight. So this is actually an author that I follow on Instagram, and I just received an arc for their newest book, which is a choose your own adventure type of book, which I find interesting. And so before I dove into that one, I wanted to pick up something from his backlist. And although this is not a genre that I normally read or gravitate to, I still found it pretty interesting, which is why I gave it 3.5 stars. This is actually a paranormal erotic novella, so it's very, very short. It does have an element of the paranormal or the fantastical or the supernatural, which is what I enjoyed. But normally this is not my go-to. I don't think I am the targeted reader for this, but it goes to show you that I still found it pretty interesting. So in this, we are following 3 friends, 3 women who are kind of bored in their relationship, wanting things to be a little bit more fun or interesting. And so they're having book club one day, and one of them finds this cube, right? Which is almost like a magic 8 ball, if you remember those from a couple years back, that you spin around and gives you answers. Well, she finds that, and then each of them like plays with it, and it says something, like it has like a trope or a character trope, I'll say, so I don't spoil anything in case you want to pick this up. It basically has a character trope of like all of their fantasies coming true. and then that's what happens. And we get like each of their three encounters after they like move the ball around, or the cube I should say, after they move the cube around, their experience with their significant others, as a result of being with the cube or manipulating the cube. And that's where the supernatural stuff clearly happens. So it was an entertaining read. It's incredibly short. It's about 90 some pages. So it's a very, very fast read. And if this is something that you like, or you like spice in your books, this is all about the spice. So I recommend this if this is your type of book, to give it a try. It's free on Kindle Unlimited, if you have that. So now we move on to 4-star territory. This is my only 4-star for the month. So that means I have 2 5-stars. So my 4-star of this month was The Mystery of Locked Rooms by Lindsay Curry. And you've seen this book a lot before. I showed it to you when I hauled it. This was an impulsive buy for me at Barnes & Noble a couple months back. And then I hauled it, and then I told you I was going to try to read it for middle grade March. And so I was able to finish it the first few days of April, since I couldn't finish reading it in March, but here we are. And this was so much fun. I really, really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. It is a premise that I like. I do enjoy young adult books that have main characters solving clues, or making their way through fun houses, or participating in games to win money. Anything that kind of is a little bit reminiscent of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I think that's what kind of started my love for these middle grade books that have kids competing for like a prize or something, and they're like in a fantastical, magical, kind of cool place that has like different contraptions and stuff like that. So yeah, this was a lot of fun. So in this, we are following Sarah, and she has 2 best friends named Wes and Hannah. And Sarah finds out, oh, and the three of them are great friends. She's the new addition to the group. She had moved like maybe 2 years prior, and they're just best friends. And what they do for fun is they go to escape rooms. Like, that's what they do, which I love that they do this. I personally love escape rooms. I think they're so much fun. I've done them every time I travel anywhere. I try to do one just to see what they're like in different parts of, the world. I actually haven't done one in a while. I think it's time to do one. But yeah, that's what these kids do for fun. Sarah finds out that her mom is struggling at home. So we know that the dad is sick, and we know that the mom has been trying to keep up with the bills and works really, really hard. But we find out that pretty much Sarah's going to lose her home. Like, the family is facing foreclosure of their house, and so she kind of has this like troubling her, because she's thinking she's going to have to move again and say bye to her friends, and start all over again without them. And so they come up with this idea that they're going to check out this place that was pretty popular, and it was like a house that was built to be like this locked room, escape room kind of a place. But after some time, it never really like kicked off the ground. It was put together by these 3 brothers, and then death happened and tragedy struck, and they couldn't really like start this escape room. But there was a big prize for completing it, and supposedly like that was like the contest. And so they find out through their research about this, and kids being kids, they feel like they should break into this place and just try to see if they can find the prize, if it's money or whatever. And they feel like this might help Sarah with her situation. And so I love anything that has to do with kids helping each other out. Kids are so wonderful. They risk their own lives for their friends, and kids are not afraid of pushing those boundaries, and they're so brave. And I like when that bravery and that camaraderie and that friendship is rewarded in books, and we see that in this book. It's such a feel good little book. The puzzles were cool, like I think they were interesting, because they're inside the house, remember? So then they're trying to figure it all out and solve the puzzles. And I thought that part was pretty good. But my favorite part was really not that in this book. It was mostly like their friendship and how they are trying to help Sarah, and they'll do whatever it takes to do that. If you like middle grade and you enjoy books that feature games and escape rooms and stuff like that, this one is really fun. And It's a good one for little kids to read too, because it's so much adventure and all of that. So I highly recommend it. So now we have officially entered 5-star territory. So I had 2 5-star reads this month, and this was my second favorite of the last 2 books, and it is called Home by Whitney Hansen. And this is an anthology of poetry, so it's a collection of poems. I first found out about Whitney Hansen through Instagram. I stumbled upon her account and I saw her reciting poetry, and then I did some searching, and I saw that she had a couple published books. So immediately I ordered myself a copy, obviously to support. Anytime I see like a person trying to do their thing and I think I might be interested in what they write, I think it's a wonderful thing to support new writers and new voices. And this was incredible, guys. So basically, the overarching feeling behind Home is how a lot of times we go through so many hardships in our lives, breakups and tribulations, lost friendships, and we lose our way, right? And we just need to reinvent ourselves, or we feel like we need to reinvent ourselves, or we need to find a new home for ourselves, or rehome ourselves, or identify who we are, or redefine our identity. And that's what this book is about. What I loved about the reading experience of this is that it really took me back to earlier times in my life. So clearly I'm an adult woman now, right? I'm not Whitney Hansen's age, who I'm sure she's like a 20 something year old, college student experiencing life and heartbreak and all these things that seem so big to us when we are young, right? And I love that the book talks about how difficult it is to lose someone, right? So to end a relationship, or be left by someone, and how hard it is for us to move on, and how we feel like we'll never love again, or we'll never find someone to love us again. And having experienced that, it took me back to how big those feelings were when I was that age too. And I almost wanted to reach out to Whitney and say, it's gonna be okay, Whitney. Like, you will love again, and you'll find love again, and you will find someone to make you feel like you're home again, and all of that will resolve itself. Like, life has a way of working through all of that. So um it was just such a nice experience to go back to that time that I feel is happened so long ago for me, but to go back to those feelings and remember, that's right, I remember how painful that was. And yeah, it's beautiful. There are some that I absolutely loved. um there's one here. So these are, I tabbed all these things that I loved. All of these were poems that I loved, and then this pink one was like my absolute favorite one. So I'll share that one with you because I really enjoyed the concept of this. It says, "It's funny to me how everyday life mixes with the internal world each of us exists in. In the notes on my phone, it is a mixture of my inner demons and my grocery list. I have no idea how to trust people again, but also I'm running out of eggs. The casual needs of life mingle with the cluttered state of my mental health. I think that might be the best way I can describe life right now. I'm going to get groceries today, but to me, the dairy aisle isn't far from the insane asylum." I thought that was so beautiful and so relatable. Like, I think of my own notes app on my iPhone, and how I have this mixture of all these different things in there, from hopes and troubles and thoughts, to movies I want to watch, to my grocery list, to just a mosh posh the most random of things and how those all collide and coexist in that app on my phone, and those are all things happening within as well. I thought that was such a beautiful concept, and again, so many of the poems are beautiful, but I was really, really impressed with that one, and that observation of something that is so relatable. I found a lot of her work relatable. I think that was my favorite part, how relatable this was. And I highly, highly recommend this. It's so accessible. The poems are very short. This is such a quick read, but they all pack a punch. The form is great. I love how she divides it into different sections. And yeah, it was just so wonderful. I absolutely love this, and I can't recommend this enough. Home by Whitney Hansen. And we've gotten to my favorite book of this month, which I feel like I need to do a whole video to talk about this. I love this so much. My favorite book of the month was You Are Fatally Invited by Andy Pliego. Wow, wow, wow. If ever there was a book made for me, I feel like this was it. And I know when I hauled this, and I know when I added it to my TBR video, I know I've talked about this book in a couple of videos, right? Buying it, hauling it, prepping to read it, now reading it. Like I can't tell you how much I loved this. This, in true fashion, is pretty much a murder mystery. Like, that's exactly what this is. It is a murder mystery through and through. So, um, the premise is that a group of authors have been invited to this writing retreat by a mysterious person, right? So, think of a combination, I want to say, of like Clue and Then There Were None. That's what this is. It's a mashup of And Then There Were None and Clue. So we have alternating POVs. So, and I went ahead and I really annotated this book, guys, because I really loved it. So I have like all of these things that I marked and my little map, so I would know who all the characters were. And it is divided into like the different days, so day 1, day 2, and then it does have like alternating characters, first person POV. um and so we have Rodrigo and Mila and all these different characters, and they all have like a secret of some sort. And when you're reading from their perspective, they all know someone, and they don't tell you who it is, but they're like, oh, there she is. I see her. And you're like, who is it? And so we're constantly trying to figure it all out. They also, because of their unknown host, right? So just like in And Then There Were None, there's an unknown host, just like in Clue, Mr. Body, there is an unknown host. And just like in all of those, they're forced to like play games, like they're forced to play games each night. And one of the games is Clue, believe it or not. And I loved that. The book is very meta, so it's very aware, like, and the characters are very aware, like, we are in a murder mystery, like. And I love that because it added like this satirical tone. It added like this humor to the entire thing. So it took itself seriously, but not too seriously, and it poked fun at itself and its tropes. It was phenomenal, guys. Like always, I feel the resolution to a lot of these things isn't my favorite. Like, I don't love that part. For me, it's the journey of this book. Like the journey of, oh my gosh, who's gonna die next, and how is the death gonna happen? And there's always like a cool little way for the deaths to happen. So like in Clue, we have like the various weapons that they're all given, but then in And Then There Were None, we have like the way that they die is particularly important because it's following like a pattern. I don't want to talk too much about that one in case I don't want to ruin that one for you, but a lot of that is done here as well. and I thought it was just brilliant. If you like an isolated closed circle mystery where the characters are closed off from civilization or society and they start dying one at a time, this is wonderful. It has high stakes. All the characters are kind of guilty of something. All the characters have a motive. All the characters are hiding secrets. And I just thought this was a beautiful tribute to all of that. Like, if I don't even think it's not even about this book being written for me. It's one of the books that I wish I could have written. Like, the writer in me wants to have written something like this because it was just so everything that I love. Like, everything that I love is in this book. And I did take my time with it. Like I told you again, I really really annotated this. I actually have a video up. I'll link it in the comments below of me just finishing the book. Like, I actually did a sit and read and annotate with me, so I could finish this the last hour and a half that I had left of the book. And it was just wonderful. It was so so good, and it is my favorite book, of course, of the month, and it might be a contender for favorite book so far of the year because I really really enjoyed it. I feel like it lived up to the hype for me, and I knew it had to do something terribly wrong for me not to like it because it's everything that I like in books. But yeah, I can't recommend You Are Fatally Invited enough. It's so good. I'm gonna want to read it again, just to experience the whole thing again. And there you have it, guys. Those are the 9 things that I read this month. I'm pretty proud of myself. I think I accomplished a lot of the things that I wanted to do. Obviously, there's so many things I wanted to try to read that I didn't get to, but we have next month and next month and next month, right? That's what this is all about. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for watching up until this point. If you're still here with me, please let me know, how did your reading month go? How was April for you? Did you read anything that was really really good? Give me some recommendations so I can keep adding to my TBR pile. Things that I might want to read or prioritize. Have you read any of these? Did I convince you to pick any of them up? Let me know. I'd love to talk to you in the comments down below. Please consider liking this video, and if you haven't done so already, it really does help me and it motivates me to keep going. That's pretty much all for me today, but I look forward to talking to you guys soon in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.